Shalom, everyone. This is part 2 of a series on HaTefillin, and in this video, this video is going to be extremely Kabbalistic in nature. So it is requisite that you have seen and fully understood my previous videos that I have posted or uploaded on HaQabbalah, because this video is a very advanced video delving deep into the holy arcana or holy mysteries behind HaTefillin. Now, we begin the disquisition with a holy disquisition on the advanced spiritual state of our Heavenly Mother, Baruch He, that is, blessed is she. Now, we read in Sefer Yeshayahu, chapter 50, verse 1, concerning our Heavenly Mother, it states, "Thus saith Adonai, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away?" Here we can see in the verse that lamentably our Heavenly Mother has been divorced and has been exiled from the holy divine palace on account of our sins, our transgressions, the transgressions and sins of Yisrael, for we have violated the Holy Covenant. At least the vast majority of Israelites have violated the Holy Covenant. We have stupid, ignorant, and foolish Christians who have no conception or knowledge of the Holy Torah holistically, let alone observe and keep all of the active commandments of the Torah, the divine law. And then we have a bunch of secular Jews who just are not Torah observant. And so this has been the case for over 2,000 years, even before the Second Temple was destroyed. And it is a very sad state that throughout the entire course of the Aeon, so many and the vast majority of Israelites, the children of Elohim, have been in constant violation of the Holy Covenant, of the divine law. And as a result of this, very, very sadly, our Heavenly Mother has been exiled and banished and divorced from the holy royal divine palace in the heavens. And part of the reason is that because a mother is so close to her children and loves them so much that, as such, our Heavenly Mother, out of her great love and compassion and mercies for her children, as disobedient as we have been, she wants to protect us and look over us and be with us. And so that is why she has gone into exile with us, at the cost of her divine union with her divine husband, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. And so this is very, very sad. And this is why the ancient sages state in our principal Qabbalastic texts, as well as in our ancient exoteric texts, vis-a-vis the Midrashim, the Talmudim, that wherever we go into exile, Shekhinah, that is the divine presence, our Heavenly Mother, is always with us. Because just as there has been an earthly exile vis-a-vis us, the Israelites, so there is also a divine archetype for that, which is our Heavenly Mother, who has also been exiled with us. And so this is why we read in Sefer Amos, chapter 5, verse 2, where it says, "The Virgin of Israel is fallen." And who is the Virgin of Israel? Well, very clearly, the Virgin is a spiritual, esoteric reference to the only one and divine, archetypal, holy, divine Virgin, which is our Heavenly Mother, Shekhinah. Now, we also read in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 2, it says, "As a lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters." And then, before we get into parsing that verse, we also find in the same book, in chapter 1, verse 6, it says, "Do not look upon me, for I am black, because the sun hath not looked upon me, the sons of my mother were angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyards, my own vineyard I have not kept. Now, going back to chapter 2, verse 2 in the book, right? It says, as a lily among thorns, right? Here, Shekhinah is being compared to a lily, a very beautiful lily, because our Heavenly Mother is very, very beautiful and very special. And she's among thorns, right? Who are the thorns? Well, Qabbalastically or allegorically, the thorns represent the other Elohim. The other Elohim, with a small e, of course, is in reference to the satanic divine entities, or the satanic archons, however you want to call them. These are who the thorns represent, and she is amongst them. So the lily is Shekhinah, our Heavenly Mother, who is in exile outside of the royal holy divine palace amongst the other Elohim, which are the satanic principalities, or Elohim. So is my love among the daughters. The daughters here, of course, would represent, her children, which would be the Israelites. Now, we need to proceed and we need to parse the next verse, which is a very, very Kabbalistic verse, because I think, as I have stated in the previous video, Shir HaShirim is considered with respect to all of the holy texts within the Bible, it is considered the Holy of Holies. It is literally the Holy of Holies. It is considered one of the most, if not the most, esoteric and mystical book of the entire word of Elohim. And this is understood by all initiated Kabbalists. So when we parse this verse, now, if, we look at this verse from an allegorical or Kabbalistic standpoint, we need to parse every aspect of the verse. Now, I'm going to give a synopsis, a Kabbalistic synopsis of the Kabbalistic interpretation of this verse. And I have personally read all of the ancient Jewish literature vis-a-vis the ancient Midrashim, the Talmudim. I have read the entire Zohar. I have read all of the Kabbalistic principal texts, commentaries on the Kabbalistic text in the original Hebrew and Aramaic. And so it is for this reason, among many other reasons, that I am, of course, the chief magician of Mystery Babylon, since I am a Baal HaTorah, a master of the Torah, and fully initiated into the holy mysteries. So if you were at my level, then you would be, or close to my level, you would be in accordance with the Kabbalistic synopsis that I'm about to give on this verse. However, I'm also going to, in the next slide, give a long citation from Sefer HaZohar, which gives a much more longer detailed breakdown, Kabbalistic breakdown that is, of this verse, just to fancy the viewers of this video, just in case, just for proof, really, that all of these interpretations, all of this knowledge, and all of these teachings that I'm giving in these videos come straight out of my divine training, and much of the knowledge and wisdom that I am bringing forth and teaching and presenting can be easily found in all of our principal Kabbalistic texts, as well as our exoteric ancient Jewish literature, for that matter. So it's very important for me to state that disclaimer, I guess you could say. So proceeding on to a very quick Kabbalistic synopsis of this verse, before we proceed to a longer breakdown of the verse. When it says, "Do not look upon me, for I am black," this is our Heavenly Mother basically stating that she is black, she is tainted, and it is on account of our sins, of the transgressions of Yisrael. Because of our sins and because of our transgressions, she has been divorced and exiled, and that, of course, puts a huge taint on her, and that's why she is black. And the sons of my mother were angry with me is an allusion and reference to the satanic Elohim. And they made me keeper of the vineyards, my own vineyard I have not kept. As I stated in a previous video, all of the Hebrew words used in this verse are all Kabbalistic code words. Every word in the Bible is a code word. And so, you know, we unlock the meaning of this code word, which is vineyard, through the verse in Sefer Yeshayahu, chapter 5, verse 7, where it says, "For the vineyard of Adonai of hosts is the house of Israel," thus giving us an equation between vineyard and the house of Israel. So when it says they have made me keeper of the vineyard, is my own vineyard I have not kept, it is to be Kabbalistically understood that it basically signifies that she has not kept her own vineyard, which is Israel. She cannot keep her own vineyard, Israel, because we are in exile among the Goyim. And because we are in exile among the Goyim, she too is in exile among the satanic Elohim, which are the patriarchs or the archetypes of the Goyim, right? So the Goyim, the 70 Goyim here on earth, are an image of their supernal archetype, which are the 70 satanic archons or princes. And so since we, Israel, as an image, are scattered amongst the Goyim on earth right now, the archetype is our Heavenly Mother, who is in the midst of these satanic Elohim. So we're both in exile, right, amongst the Goyim. We're in exile amongst the earthly Goyim, or strangers, and she is in exile among the strange Elohim, which are the satanic Elohim, right? So now let us continue this holy Kabbalistic disquisition by now looking at a folio within Sefer Zohar Chadash, on the section Al Shir HaShirim, or the section on the Song of Songs, which is a sort of concealed midrash on the Song of Songs. Now, this is all contained in folios 69b to 69d in Sefer Zohar Chadash, for those who want to reference this long citation here at hand. So in this folio here, it begins by citing the previous verse, "Black am I," by stating this is in reference to the side below, but beautiful from the side above. In other words, what they're saying here is she's black from the side below. That is from our side, from the side of Yisrael. We, Yisrael, are below here on earth, and as a result of our transgressions and violation of the Holy Covenant and the divine law, she is black. But from above, that is with respect to her heavenly husband and her home, which is the royal heavenly palace, etc., she is beautiful because she is a divine, glorious, goddess. She is the one and only goddess, okay? And that's from that side, from that aspect, she's very, very beautiful, right? Now, it then goes on to say, she is like a mother, indeed she is, she's our heavenly mother, over her children, which are Yisrael. She is the most graceful and beautiful ornament of all. Indeed, this is the case because she is the wife, she is the mate of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. And since the Holy One is the heavenly king, he is the divine king over all of existence, you can only imagine that his mate, his wife, is going to be the most beautiful goddess in the entire universe of all existence, right? So she removes them from the view of the satanic entities outside, so they will not denounce Israel. For this reason, do not look upon this adornment, for I am pitch black. Meaning that on one very esoteric mystical level of interpretation, which is another one of Black am I, is that she is making herself black in a sense because she's the mother of Israel, who are sinners, and so by covering herself, right, and making herself black and hidden, this in a way covers and hides her children, Israel, right, from accusation. So that's another very esoteric mystical interpretation of this black am I. Now, like a mother watching over her children, how many accusers poised there, right? So again, there's many accusers ready to, since she is in exile among the satanic Elohim, which have every right to accuse her children because they are in violation of the Holy Covenant, In her great love, she makes herself black to try to cover her children up, so that they are not accused by these satanic Elohim or demons. If they were to gaze upon that adornment, how exquisite and beautiful, enabling ascent above, they would rush to prosecute, recounting Israel's sins. They would prevent her from ascending above, uniting with her husband. Again, she's extremely beautiful. She is the one and only goddess of all of existence, of all of creation. She is the mate and the wife, the bride of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so one human cannot imagine how beautiful and how exquisite she is. It's beyond comprehension. It truly, truly is. And so, again, she's surrounded in this current spiritual condition and state by the satanic Elohim, who are preventing her from uniting with her heavenly lover, which is her divine husband, which is the Holy One, blessed be He, the heavenly King. And so this is a very, very horrible, devastating state to be in, right? So very, very sad. And so continuing, do not look upon me from the side of the lower ones. Again, making reference back to Israel, because we are in a deplorable state in our sin. For it is on their account that the sun has scorched me. This goes back to the sun, which represents her heavenly husband, or her mate. And the sun scorching her basically represents her divorcement or banishment from him, which is again on account of our iniquity. And so continuing, not only this, but the sons of my mother were angry with me, which is an allusion to the patriarchs of the world, vis-a-vis the 70 satanic archons or principalities or princes, when they saw my darkness from the side of the lower ones. Consequently, foreskin rules. Foreskin being an allusion to the satanic Elohim, or the satanic Godhead. They made me guardian of the vineyards. Foreskin is upon me, suckling from me, imparting to satanic legions and troops to other nations. My own vineyard I do not keep. My holy legions, I am unable to feed them when I am subject to that side. So we have to put things into context and perspective here, because we are in exile amongst the Goyim. And so we have to be nourished and protected while we are in the midst of the Goyim. But the Goyim who rule over us and have been ruling over us in this long period of exile are under the dominion of the satanic Elohim. And she, our heavenly mother, Baruch Hu, is in the is also in exile amongst these satanic Elohim. And so in order to make sure that we who are in exile amongst the Goyim are protected and nourished accordingly, that means that the Goyim who rule over us must also be nourished and protected. And their nourishment comes from these satanic Elohim above. And their nourishment comes from our Heavenly Mother, who is forced to be in their midst and to nourish them so that they can nourish the Goyim, so that they can then nourish and protect us, since we are in their midst. And this is what's going on a very esoteric, mystical level, behind the scenes. Only those who are fully initiated into the holy mysteries fully understand the entire nature of reality, in every aspect, in every respect, and what is truly going on here. Now, we need to proceed now to talk about the Great Prayer, or the prayer as it is known in ancient Hebrew. This is a reference, an exclusive reference to the Shmoney Esrah, which is ancient Hebrew for 18, which is a reference to the 18 standard blessings of this prayer, which is also known as the Amidah, which means standing, because this prayer is recited while you're standing. Now, it just happens to be that there's the reason that there are 18 standard blessings in this standard prayer is because the gematria of the Hebrew word chai, which means life, happens to be 18. So we have these 18 standard blessings in the Shmoney Esrah, is equated with life, eternal life, that is. And this standard prayer contains the Shema, which is a command, by the way, in HaTorah, which is Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, which is listen, O Israel, Adonai, our Elohim, or our gods, Adonai, is one. Again, Kabbalistically, an equation, a paradoxical, mystical equation between singularity and plurality. Now, this great prayer is the standard holy divine liturgy and has always been since, since of yore. And it is to be recited 3 times a day, every day, as is listed in our standard Sidurim. Our Sidurim are our standard prayer books, right? This is as it is written. Now, when Daniel knew, he went into his house, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed, which is in Sefer Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. So we read about this very holy saint, one of the most holiest saints, one of our most holiest and most great and most esteemed prophets of all time, Daniel. Okay? In fact, there's no other prophet of all the Israeli Hebrew prophets that actually gave times and dates in his prophecies. Daniel's like the only prophet that did that, which is puts him on a whole nother level compared to other prophets, okay? And he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day. Now, we Kabbalists, and we Jews who are initiated, and even those who are not initiated, know, as a matter of fact, what prayers Daniel was praying. He was praying the standard liturgical prayers that are to be found in our Siddur, that is found in our Siddur, in our standard Siddur. Which is, as I just said, the Amidah or the Shmoney Esrah, which is to be recited 3 times a day, which contains the Shema. That's what he was doing. That's what he was praying 3 times a day, every single day. And this is an image of the 3 main pilgrimage festivals of Zion / Yerushalayim, and the 3 patriarchs who instituted them. These are just basic facts of HaQabbalah, okay? And again, we find most of Christianity and most Christians who are very stupid and very ignorant and very foolish of this. In fact, as a most recent anecdote, there was a very, I guess you could say, well-known Christian who has a very well-known organization. I'm not going to say his name, but he basically just recently, I guess it seems, discovered this verse that I just cited here in Sefer Daniel. And he's like, oh, wow, I found this verse, and now I understand why Daniel was so beloved. You know, it says in the book that, you know, Adonai loved Daniel so much, and he was greatly beloved of Adonai. And one of the reasons being was because he was doing his due diligence in praying these 3 standard prayers every single day. Now this baby Christian, as advanced as he may think he is, he's really a baby Christian, a teenager at best, spiritually speaking. He doesn't fully understand and know the mysteries and secrets behind this verse and the 3 standard prayers, etc. He's not even doing the standard. He's not even doing the 3 standard prayers as we ancient Jews and Israelites have always done. Okay, I don't think he's aware of the Amidah and the Shmoney Esrah. It's very, very sad. The prevalent condition of Christianity is very, very low. There is a rampant prevalent foolishness and ignorance that is extremely prevalent amongst Christianity, and it is most deplorable, to say the least. Now, continuing, the Lord's Prayer, which is the prayer of Yeshua HaMashiach, is actually an abridged or shortened form of the Amidah or the Shmoney Esrah. And a most easy proof of this is on close inspection and comparison between the 2 prayers. You should be able to easily see and understand that the Lord's Prayer is nothing more than a shortened form of the Amidah. You have to understand that in context, in spiritual context, the Lord's Prayer was designed for spiritual babies. When the Lord gave this prayer out, he was dealing with a lot of spiritual babies. People would come up to him and ask him, Rabbi, how do I pray? Teach us how to pray. He's dealing with spiritual babies who didn't know about prayer and didn't know how to pray and didn't know the mysteries and secrets behind prayer. And so knowing that he's surrounded by a bunch of spiritual babies that he has to teach and that he has to train, okay, he's not surrounded by disciples and students that are seasoned rabbanim. No, they are spiritual babies for the most part, because again, it states in the holy writings that he was sent specifically to the lost sheep of Israel, which is an allusion or reference to the lost 10 tribes of Israel, which were the previous apostates and exiles of Israel, or the lost 10 tribes. So these are all former apostates and exiles who have lost their culture, who have lost the knowledge and wisdom of Israel and the divine law and the Torah, etc. And so now they need to be regrafted into the tree of life, regrafted into the Torah, the divine law, and be retaught and retrained from the beginning, all the way back up. And that's who Yeshua is primarily dealing with in his wanderings, okay? And so that's who he designed this very shortened prayer of the Amidah. He's got to do baby steps. And so that's what he was doing. He was taking baby steps with these spiritual babies and, taking them one step at a time. Eventually, the goal and the plan was to get them to be reciting the Amidah 3 times a day, like any standard seasoned, Yehudi or Rab would do, okay? And so that means that the Amidah or the Shmoney Esrah is really for spiritual adults. These are for very spiritually mature individuals, okay, who are well grounded in the Torah, the Qabbalah, etc. Okay, and the ancient Israelite Siddur is the standard. That is the Siddur, the standard Siddur, which is our prayer book, contains all the standard blessings and prayers that are to be recited and invoked upon the appointed times, whatever those appointed times may be. But every day is the appointed time to be reciting the Shmoney Esrah 3 times a day. Okay, that is in a sense or in a way a commandment. It must be done, and there are great mysteries and secrets behind this, as we are about to get into in the next slide. Now, we now need to proceed to discuss the divine unity, which, based on the recent readings that I just conducted, it should be readily now understood that as a result, our Heavenly Mother, Baruch, who is the Queen of the Heavens, Shekhinah, is not echad or one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. She's not one with Him because, as we already read in Sefer Yeshayahu, she has been divorced and banished. So they are not one, meaning that for a very long time, for thousands of years, essentially, there has been no unity within the Godhead or the Sephiroth, right? And so this is the powerful secret and great mystery behind the Shmoney Esrah, which contains the Shema, because when it is spoken or prayed, it unifies our heavenly parents, right? When you say Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, you are speaking into existence the unity of Eloheinu, our gods, or Hasferoth. You are unifying them by doing that, by reciting and praying this. One of the principal effects of this prayer is the unification of the Godhead, the unification of our heavenly parents, our heavenly mother, and our heavenly father. You are bringing them closer to divine spiritual conjugal union. That is the goal. And so this is why we read in our principal Qabbalastic text in Sefer Tikkunei HaZohar in folio 3b, it says, the Holy of Holies is the Amidah because the King arrives. Again, it is only us fully initiated true Kabbalists that fully understand the mysteries and the secrets behind our rituals and our liturgies. We're the only ones. And so we understand the power, the great power, and the secret and mysteries behind the recitation of these standard prayers, or this standard prayer, at least, which is the Amidah. So this then is the secret of a future prophecy contained in Sefer Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 9, where it states, in reference to the Messianic age, or the millennial reign, it states, on that day, Adonai will be Echad, and his name, Echad. Duly note that in the Hebrew there, it is giving the future tense, or the imperfect conjugation of the verb to be. It doesn't say, on that day he was one. It doesn't say on that day he is one. No, it's a prophecy. It's an ancient prophecy, and the prophet is saying that in the future, when Mashiach comes back again, when Elohim descends here upon earth, on that day, he will be one. He will be one with his mate, with his bride, Shekhinah, our Heavenly Mother, Baruch. Now we're going to get very deep here, very, very deep here into some very esoteric, holy divine mysteries that I'm afraid even most Orthodox Jews, even they don't understand or know these holy mysteries. As an Amidah, I sometimes, go to different synagogues every now and then just to visit, and also to do the standard, prayers, which are, as I'm just mentioning here, the Shmoney, Esrah, and the Amidah, right? I have to pray this 3 times a day. As an example, there are times there's a synagogue 2 blocks away from where I work. I live in one of the big major cities in here in America, and I work in downtown, and a few blocks away is a major synagogue. And sometimes, when I don't feel like doing the prayers by myself, I'll go to the synagogue after work or before work to, partake with other Jews coming in, into downtown to work, to do these standard, 3 prayers a day. I may come in for the morning to do the morning prayer, or I may come in to do the evening prayer after work. And I go in, and when we're going to recite the Shmoney Esrah or the Amidah, I notice that there are many Jews that don't have the HaTefillin upon them when they're reciting it. And I'm very, very sad when I see this. And I even every now and then I talk to the Jews, and I'm like, do you understand? Do you know the great mysteries and the great secrets behind the importance of wrapping the HaTefillin when you're reciting this standard prayer? And many of them don't, because the vast majority of Jews, when I'm going to these synagogues to recite the standard prayer, are not wearing their HaTefillin. In fact, it has become now a modern, as part of the modern Jewish halacha, now stipulates that it is not required for a Jew to wear his HaTefillin during the morning. You don't need to do it. How this creeped into our modern Jewish halacha is beyond me, but it is part of the victory of HaSatan over the children of HaElohim. Because somehow, some way now, HaSatan has now have your average Orthodox Jew believing that he doesn't need to wear the HaTefillin in the morning for the morning prayer, when in fact he does. And so much power and so much effect is lost with all of these Orthodox Jews who are not wearing their HaTefillin during the morning prayer because they think that they don't have to. And I know many Jews who do not wear their HaTefillin during the morning prayer because of this current halacha. And it's deplorable, to say the least. But moving on now into these mysteries and secrets that these Orthodox Jews just do not understand. And there's a vast majority of them these days. They're not Kabbalists. They don't understand. We read in the same book, in Sefer Tikkunei HaZohar, Folio 3b, we read, "We call our Heavenly Mother, Baruch, the HaTefillin of the Master of the Universe. The Heavenly Mother covers him who wears the straps of the HaTefillin, and they link Israel with Shekhinah." That's the first great secret and mystery of the HaTefillin. That Shekhinah, the divine presence, comes down and envelops us who wear the HaTefillin 3 times a day for the 3 standard prayers, morning, midday, and evening prayer of the Amidah or the Shmoney Esrah. So that's the first great secret, is that she's known. The HaTefillin has everything to do with our Heavenly Mother. Okay, that's what we learn from this verse. Has everything to do with our Heavenly Mother. Again, she is fallen. She's in a deplorable state. So all of our actions here on earth, in keeping the commandments of the Torah, in doing the 3 standard prayers every single day, and wearing the HaTefillin while we do these standard prayers, which is required and stipulated by the Torah, it's all for the purpose of raising up our Heavenly Mother who has fallen, and attempting to unify her back to her lover. That's where this is all leading to. That's what this is all about. And it just seems that practically every Christian, I'm going to have to just say every Christian, is just completely clueless and ignorant, because they don't even know the Heavenly Mother to begin with, okay? So they're completely clueless, stupid, and ignorant. This is all beyond them. And again, it's almost the same state with Jews. There's only a small minority of Jews who are the elect, the Kabbalists like myself, who know this, but a vast majority, your average Orthodox Jewish layman, again, is not going to know this and be acquainted with what I'm speaking and what I'm speaking of here. Okay, so they may have some slight conception of their heavenly mother and Shekhinah, etc., but they don't have the full knowledge and wisdom of what's truly going on, on a spiritual level. We proceed to the next verse where it says, Samael is seized by the collar from the aspect of those who bind him through the sign of the tefillin and tied straps on his arm and 2 knotted straps on his horns. Again, when we wrap the tefillin, as part of this ritual, when we're wrapping the tefillin shel yad, which is Hebrew for the tefillin of the arm, we as we Sephardic Jews who have the ancient true, who have correctly preserved the ancient tradition, ritual, and custom, we wrap the strap 7 times around our arm, which is in reference to the lower 7 Sefirot. Because what we're doing there is we are, in essence, through that ritual, we are uniting the lower 7 Sefirot in the Godhead, of which Shekhinah is a subset of. So it all has to do in part in unifying the entire Sefirot, or the Godhead. And so when we are binding these straps on our head and on our arm, it also spiritually represents the binding of HaSatan and the satanic Godhead and the demonic forces, right? So when we are doing this very, very holy divine ritual, 2 things are going on. One, we are binding HaSatan and the satanic Godhead and his legions. And in so doing, we are also unifying the Godhead, and more principally, we are unifying Shekhinah, our Heavenly Mother, because since she's in the midst of the satanic Elohim, if we are binding them, then that loosens her from them, and then she can ascend on high to her lover. Okay, so that's what's going on here. Very, very mystical, very important. The amount of power, of spiritual power that is released when these holy tefillin are correctly wrapped and donned by a holy Israelite, and then the standard prayer is recited and invoked, the spiritual power that is emanated and goes forth can be likened to the most powerful nuclear weapons going off on planet Earth. In the spiritual realm, it's like nuclear bombs going off. If you had your third eye open and you could see the spiritual divine power that is released by a holy Israelite correctly donning on the tefillin and invoking and praying that prayer in the original Hebrew and Aramaic, it's literally nuclear bombs going off. Literally, it's that powerful. I cannot even fully emphasize or describe how powerful it is to do what I just said. So moving on to the next verse. He binds her with him, which is the knot of the tefillin of the hand. He binds her with him so she does not move from him for all eternities. From the left side, he binds tefillin as an arm. From the right side upon his head, the tefillin of the head. And this is the day she ties the knot with her husband. Again, the tying and knotting of the tefillin is a very subtle, esoteric, mystical reference to tying the knot, right? We know, where do we get this modern day expression of I tied the knot with my partner or with my wife or husband? It's an expression that is deeply rooted in ancient Hebrew. It comes from the tying the knot, which is the tefillin that we do, because on a very esoteric, Qabbalastic, mystical level, it represents the spiritual conjugal union that is entered into by our heavenly parents, right? So that's another very esoteric, mystical, Kabbalistic level that's going on there, right? When we tie the knot, that then allows and permits our heavenly parents to tie the knot between themselves. That is to enter into a holy divine state of conjugal union, which is the highest form of unity that can be obtained or ascertained within the Sefirot, or the Godhead, right? Again, this is very, very esoteric, divine, mystical matters that we're dealing with here. Moving on to the next verse, which is very critical. It states, he who has no tefillin during the recital of the Shema, from his side rules the demonic maidservant, which is an allusion to Lilith, or Rahab, which is the wife of HaSatan. Okay, so again, this is why it is so critical to wear the tefillin every single time you're praying. No matter what you're praying, you need to be wearing the tefillin. Done. And when you don't do so, you're not binding demonic forces. You're not fully raising yourself up to your maximum potential holy divine state. And so again, this is why it is so critical and momentous to don the tefillin when you are praying. And this goes back to my anecdote when I see so many Jews. I mean, it's very good. I'm very happy and I'm very proud that there is at least a small number of Jews that are going to the synagogues and, you know, are reciting the Shmoney Esrah 3 times a day, or at least trying to. But, you know, we're not in a maximum state because, you know, many of them, you know, that are doing so are not wearing their tefillin. And so usually on average, when I go into a synagogue, you know, to you know, recite these standard prayers, you know, it's like maybe less than 10% of the Jews are wearing tefillin, you know. When I go into, when I'm in my in the synagogue that I go to after work, you know, or when I'm at work, you know, it's usually 1 or 2 of like 10 or 20 Jews that are wearing their tefillin, right? That's pretty sad. So again, it's a really sad state, you know. And then there's, you know, again, there's only 20 Jews in the synagogue, right? And I'm sure there's thousands of Jews that are working in downtown, you know, so if not more, right? So of all the thousands of Jews working in downtown, you know, there's only 20 at the synagogue, right? Again, this is a very, very sad state that we're in, and this is why Shekhinah is fallen. This is why she's in the state that she's in, because of the vast stupidity, ignorance, and foolishness of all the Jews and Christians in this last generation, and how they have fallen so far and so short of the Holy Covenant, and what great violation they are in of the Holy Covenant. And so this is why it also states in the same book, happy and blessed are those who raise our Heavenly Mother to our Heavenly Father, tefillin over their hands and tefillin over their hands and head. Happy are those limbs and organs. Amen. Amen.